On the next episode of Cash App, bro wanted to know some things about Blade that, basically not a lot of people know. He wanted me to give him a refresher course on the character. Now, one of the reasons for this is that when it came to Blade, the movie actually messed up a lot of Blade's comic book lore and made people believe things like Blade was born a vampire and a bunch of other things. So let's do it. Let's learn about Blade. Well, who was Blade's mother? Well, to learn about Blade, his first appearance in comics was actually in Tomb of Dracula, which has about 70 issues, and you can read all these issues on the Marvel Unlimited app. You can also read Blade's newest series that dropped in 2023 and his 5-part series about his daughter. Now, first things first, Blade was never born a vampire. Other characters, had vampirism, but he didn't. He actually didn't discover his powers or abilities until later, but let's get into that. So in Tomb of Dracula, issue number 13, Blade basically gives a background story on his birth and his mom. And his mom was pregnant with him and she was sweating. She was having a hard time delivering him as a baby. Now, if you watch the Blade movie, then you know who this is. I'm not going to tell you because I want you to read the book. But basically, because his mother was sick while, in being in labor, they called the doctor. That doctor came in, acted like he was going to help. But when he made the girls go into another room, he did what vampires normally do. Now, while he was doing what he was doing, the girls came in, they rushed him out. He jumped out of a window and Blade's mom died, but Blade was born. Now, as a baby, he didn't have any vampire powers or anything like that. And in issue number 17 of Tomb of Dracula, Blade is hunting Dracula. He finds him and he basically attacks him. But Dracula gets to drop on Blade and he drains him. Later in that series, Blade is found, but something's different about Blade. Issue number 19, Mr. Van Helsing himself gets ready to strike Blade because he thinks Blade's a vampire. But Blade wakes up, grabs his stake, and then we find out that when old boy bit his mother, again, I'm not going to tell you who that was, you better go read the book, it mutated his genetics. He didn't become a vampire, not even a half vampire, but he gained an ability that no one ever had. He had an immunity to vampirism. He was completely free of the curse of vampires. They could bite him as much as they wanted, but it didn't do anything to him. And there you go. So, because I know somebody's going to go, but there's the word bubbles right there. You really can't run from this. I know what you're saying. Okay, well, how did Blade turn into a vampire then? Like, how did that even work? Basically, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, issue number 8, in which this is the comic that you guys want to read. Blade and Spider-Man basically was fighting Morbius. Once Morbius bit Blade, that's what morphed him and evolved him. We didn't learn this until later on. Specifically when Blade and Morbius fought again, and Blade talked about how people stated how his bite mutated him, made him different. He didn't believe it. Now, later on in comics, Marvel went ahead and they retconned this. Specifically in the Blade Infinity comics where, it basically shows how he was born a vampire. He had an uncontrollable thirst, and that's what made him how he is, basically. Him being bitten. Like, they went ahead and gave him the whole 9 yards. Now, if you're wondering, does Blade have any weaknesses? Yeah, he only has one. Avengers 2018. Issue number 27, we find out that Blade is allergic to red sunlight. Basically, red suns will kill him. You also want us to know if there's any drawbacks to him drinking blood. Absolutely not. When he drinks blood from anybody, he gets stronger. In some cases, he can take some of their properties. Some. But that's something all vampires can do now. We learned that in Blood Hunt. Specifically, I believe it's Blood Hunt Wolverine or Blood Hunt X-Men. Yep, it was X-Men, Laura Kinney, issue 1 Blood Hunt, where vampires were kidnapping mutants to try to take, their powers, or not take them, but gain their powers through their blood because the mutant X gene is in their blood. Now, because Blade is a vampire, he's magical, so there are certain characters he can actually harm with his fang and vampire magic. For instance, Earth's Mightiest Heroes Avengers, issue 16, we find out Blade's fangs can actually bite a Ghost Rider somehow, and he can somehow exorcise him, taking poison out of his body. And now, if you read the Blade series that they had come out, after Blade basically drank the blood of Dracula, which is something all vampires do, later on in their life, it unlocked his full vampiric powers. Blade could not only turn into mist, but he could turn into a wolf also, with the ability to house demons in his body. Basically, he could be a vessel. When it comes to his mist abilities, he can actually go inside of an individual and blow them up from the inside out. And he can do this to multiple people at once. And he can turn into bats. So now Blade is a fully realized vampire. He can pretty much do everything every other vampire can do, but better because he can actually survive in sunlight. Now, he may have other powers and abilities we don't know about, but we do know he has the ability to use vampiric magic. This is actually how he was able to give Miles Morales a new outfit and a new suit. Using a item and using, again, magic, he could do certain things. Again, this is not something he has just completely explored just yet, but again, he has new powers, new abilities, and because he's now a fully fledged vampire, there are a lot of new things that he can do that he couldn't do before. I hope this crash course helped you out. Even though I've already talked about Blade, I feel like there are some vampires that you guys are not aware of that are prevalent in the Marvel mythos that you guys just haven't even been talking about. While at the same time, there's a new vampire that no one is speaking about. I think the only person I've seen talk about it is Blurred Without Fear. But let's get in it real quick. So if you guys go to the Marvel Unlimited app, you can read Vengeance of Moon Knight, right? Or you can just read the Moon Knight series. But when it comes to Moon Knight, he employs two vampires, Reese and Soldier. And they not only help him do his job, but they also hunt down their own who are doing what they shouldn't be doing. So when we go into Blood, we find out that not only is Blade possessed by a vampire, it is the first vampire, the god of the vampires. And that is a vampire character who's been prevalent in the Marvel mythos since the beginning of it. Just like Thor would have to fight him in Blood Hunt, Thor has actually fought him before. Which is pretty much why I say he's a very long-standing character within the Marvel mythos. Now, the only way they were able to actually stop him is that they needed the children from Strange Academy, Moon Knight's army, the Avengers, and the Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Doom. Now, even though you would think that would have been enough to actually stop him, here's the problem. The only way to separate him from Blade was to have Blade's daughter and Miles Morales, who both share blood ties. Not only Blade, but to the god of the vampires. That's actually how they siphoned his soul out of him. Now, because of this particular event, we were also given brand new vampire characters that we have never seen before, which are the Blood Pack. These characters are vampires who were built to specifically take out the Avengers. They are their counters. Although one of them is a clone of Dracula himself, there was another vampire that was created that night, or at least during that event, that a lot of people aren't talking about. And that vampire is Night Drifter. Night Drifter is one of the newest half-blooded vampires of the Marvel mythos. And his first appearance was in New Champions issue number 7, in which instead of him having two fangs, he only has one. You see, this is because when he was turned into a vampire, he was actually able to stop it. I mean, if you just let him tell it himself, he was able to warn it off. Like, again, he was able to stop the full transformation. So he is still a vampire. He is only half vampire. When it comes to the Marvel mythos and the hybrids that they have for their vampires, you have Blade, now you have Night Drifter, and then you have Blade's daughter, who is not only a natural born vampire, but her first appearance was actually in Judgment Day, Free Comic Book Day, which if you want, you can read all of this on the Marvel Unlimited app. But not only do we find out that she's a daughter of Blade, we find out that Blade has kept tabs on her and kept her safe and hidden this whole entire time. And if you want to learn more about her, you can actually read her solo run that is also on the Marvel Unlimited app. It's only 5 issues long. And if you haven't already, you can check out Avengers Academy. You can check out Avengers Academy, which again shows you all the youngest Avengers of the Marvel mythos, while at the same time gives you a lot more reading when it comes to Bloodline and her other, stories. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Catch you.